You grow up understanding that in this country your life has a score. It's called your songbun, and it measures your family's loyalty to the state across 3 generations. A high score means Pyongyang. It means food. It means a future. Your family's score is good. An apartment with heating, real textbooks, a father who comes home, and a little sister who has never gone hungry. You've never questioned what keeps the score high. You just know the rules. Stay visible, stay loyal, stay quiet. The problem with invisible rules is that you never see the moment you break them. One night at 3 a.m., the door takes the hit before your father does. They walk him out in his undershirt. No charges read aloud. No handcuffs even, which is somehow worse. By sunrise, your family's score has been erased. You have one option. The state has already assigned it to you. The man who comes to your apartment 3 days later doesn't look like state security. He looks like an accountant. Gray suit, clean shoes, a folder held flat against his chest like a hymnal. He sits at your kitchen table while your mother pours tea with shaking hands, and he talks to you the way a recruiter talks at a job fair. Calm, organized, focused entirely on your future. The only difference is this job fair isn't optional. He explains that the state has identified exceptional candidates for a specialized foreign language and finance academy. Intensive program, 18 months. Graduates go on to serve in international trade representation. A tremendous opportunity for a family in your current situation. He doesn't say your current situation like it's a problem. He says it like it's a leverage point, because that's exactly what it is. There are 2 options on the paper he slides across the table. Option A, the academy. Option B, agricultural reassignment for the family, effective within the month. You read option B twice. You don't ask where. The state doesn't recruit talent. It acquires collateral and trains it to be useful. You pick up the pen. The academy is on a fenced campus 2 hours outside Pyongyang. Concrete buildings, locked gates at 9 p.m., corridors that smell like floor wax and institutional cooking. Your cohort is 23 students. Within the first week, you figure out what they all have in common. Every single one of them has a father who is currently absent for reasons nobody discusses. You are all leverage made human, sitting in the same classroom, learning Mandarin conjugations and financial instrument theory, and the correct ideological framework for interacting with foreign nationals. The curriculum is thorough. Nobody talks about what happens if you fail. A letter arrives from your mother 6 weeks in. The family's songbun has been temporarily stabilized. She sounds relieved. You read the word temporarily 4 times and put the letter under your mattress. Graduation day, they hand you a passport with a name that isn't yours. The photo is accurate. Everything else is a fiction the state has printed on official paper. Your first assignment is Macau, and your handler delivers the operational brief in a parking garage 2 levels underground. Engine oil on the concrete floor, the distant thump of casino ventilation overhead. He talks the way all handlers talk, flat, specific, without eye contact. The outside world hits you like a physical fact. You step onto the casino floor and the cold air and the noise and the light land on your skin all at once. Free internet. Food that comes in portions that assume you're actually hungry. In your country, the shelves are a political statement. Here, they're just shelves. For the first time in your life, you understand what the rest of the world has been eating while your country was eating ideology. Your cover is trade attaché at a shell company registered in Hong Kong. Your real job is cleaner. You move state funds through VP gambling accounts to strip the currency trail before the money continues downstream. Room 39 generates an estimated 500 million to $1 billion annually for the regime. You are one node in that pipeline, a small one. Functional. You're good at it, better than expected. The numbers flow clean, the accounts balance, and your handler stops checking your work after the 3rd week. That's the closest thing to a compliment this industry offers. There is one other operative on the floor. You never learn his real name, but he is the only person in Macau who feels like a human being rather than a cutout. One afternoon, he starts asking quiet questions about where the money goes after it leaves the casino. 2 weeks later, your handler mentions casually that he's been recalled to Pyongyang for a better posting. You tell yourself the oldest lie in the operative's handbook. It won't happen to me. I'm too useful. Your handler calls you back to the Macau office on a Tuesday morning and delivers the new assignment the same way he'd announce a schedule change. New product, bigger numbers, different geography. The era of moving clean casino money is finished. You're being transferred to the division that moves everything else. In your old job, you moved numbers on a screen. In this job, you move product across 3 borders before breakfast. Room 39 narcotics operation runs state-manufactured methamphetamine out of production facilities in Hamhung, north of Pyongyang, through Myanmar and into the broader Southeast Asian distribution chain. At operational peak, the program generates an estimated $100 million a year. Running alongside it, your new team manages a parallel network distributing near-perfect counterfeit US $100 bills printed on state intaglio presses. The US Secret Service eventually calls them super dollars. Early detection rates run under 1%. They are, by any technical measure, a flawless product. You don't touch the product. You touch the spreadsheets, the couriers, the cutouts, the transit windows. You tell yourself the distance makes it clean. You're not a drug dealer. You're a supply chain manager whose supply chain happens to be illegal in 47 countries. The logistics problem is genuinely interesting, and that fact alone should tell you something about where your head is at. The commendation from Pyongyang arrives 6 weeks in. It doesn't carry your name, but your handler nods at you across the room when he reads it. You understand. For the first time, a quiet voice tells you that you're good at this, not just surviving, not just complying, actually good. You apply the same focus that once earned you top scores at the academy, except now the exam is real and the consequences of failure don't end with a bad report. The fear evaporates. What replaces it is worse. You don't have a word for it yet, but it fits in your chest like a stone that used to be soft. The next transfer comes with a better cover story and significantly less sunlight. Your new office is a rented floor in a commercial building in Shenyang, China. 40 operatives, laptops, no windows, a whiteboard with nothing written on it. The office looks like a mid-tier tech startup. The business plan is armed robbery at continental scale. This is the cyber division. In February 2016, a unit connected to this network breached the Bangladesh Central Bank's SWIFT messaging system and pulled $81 million in 72 hours. By the time you arrive, the operation has expanded into systematic targeting of cryptocurrency exchanges worldwide. The total attributed to the broader network eventually exceeds $2 billion across multiple years. You coordinate phishing campaigns and lateral network movements with the same methodical focus you once applied to financial ledgers in Macau. The work is clean, fast, invisible. No product crosses any border. No courier gets arrested. Nobody physically dies because of what you do on a given Tuesday. You almost convince yourself this is the better version of the job. You go 3 full weeks without thinking about the man recalled from Macau. That is when a South Korean NGO contact slips a phone number under the door of a restaurant bathroom. You hold it for 72 hours, turning it over in the dark. You do the arithmetic on what crossing that line would cost your mother, your sister, the songbun file that is still only temporarily stabilized back in Pyongyang. The math is always the same. You flush the number. 1 week later, your handler mentions over lunch that the NGO contact was arrested. He says it the way you'd mention traffic. Shame about him. A pause. He looks at you with a perfectly calibrated half-second of nothing. You look tired. Everything okay? That's when you understand the real architecture. You were never just being managed. You were being observed, observing the exit. The door was always a test. You hadn't tried the handle. Now they know it. The promotion arrives in the language the organization always uses for bad news. You are being assigned additional responsibilities. Translation. You now manage human beings, which in this context means you decide which ones are still useful, and which ones have become a liability. New safe house, new burner phone stack. In the legal world, they'd call this a management role. Here, the performance reviews are irreversible. Your network spans 12 subagents across China, Southeast Asia, and 1 contact operating in Europe. You run them the same way you ran the ledgers in Macau methodically, without sentiment, with a precision that Pyongyang has started noting in writing. For the most part, it is administrative work. Then there is the woman. She is mid-20s, recruited from a Chinese-Korean border family, exceptional at infiltrating financial institutions. She reminds you of no one you will allow yourself to name out loud. She is the best operator in your network by a significant margin, and she has started showing signs of independent judgment. Small amounts rerouted. Questions about whether her family's safety guarantees exist anywhere in writing. Questions you recognize because you once held them in your own hands for 72 hours before you flushed them too. Pyongyang sends the recall order. Your confirmation is required before it can proceed. You sit with it for 3 days. You eat. You sleep a few hours. You look at her operational file, which is excellent, which changes nothing. You send the confirmation. She is recalled. She doesn't come back. You never ask where she went, and no one volunteers the information. The sadness lasts about a week. After that, it calcifies into something harder and more useful. You didn't lose a person. You resolved a liability on the balance sheet. That's what management is. That's what you signed up for the day you picked up the pen at your mother's kitchen table. A month later, Pyongyang sends another commendation. This one has your operational designation printed at the top. One word at the bottom: reliability. The new brief arrives 6 weeks after the commendation. Target: a major European cryptocurrency exchange. Budget for the operation: unlimited. Timeline: 90 days. They don't give you a team. They give you a budget code and a satellite phone. The rest is your problem. You assemble a 6-person technical cell across 3 cities. None of them know each other's real names. The operation runs on a spear phishing campaign targeting exchange employees, lateral movement through the internal network, and a coordinated exfiltration window of 11 hours. Total extracted: $300 million in cryptocurrency, moved through a chain of wallets that dissolves behind it like footprints in water. Clean. Invisible. The Western press spends 72 hours blaming a Russian group before the attribution quietly shifts. You watch the coverage from a hotel room in Bangkok, eating room service off a tray that cost more than your first month's academy stipend, monitoring encrypted feeds on a laptop. You're the ghost in the machine, and the machine doesn't even know you exist. The most profitable quarter in Room 39 history. Bonuses distributed. No share options. No pension plan. The money flows back to Pyongyang, where it funds programs you will never be briefed on. Your cut arrives through the usual channels. Enough to arrange a better apartment for your mother. Enough to improve your sister's school assignment. You wire the instructions and tell yourself this is what the whole thing was always for. Protecting your family. But late that night, staring at the ceiling, a quieter voice asks the question you've been successfully ignoring for years. Is the family back home actually protected? Or are they just better maintained hostages, upgraded on schedule to keep you functional and compliant? You order another meal. You turn the television off. The question doesn't get an answer because the answer doesn't change the arithmetic. And the arithmetic is the only thing that has ever actually governed your life. 6 weeks later, the satellite phone buzzes. Not a new brief, a summons. Pyongyang wants you home for a recognition ceremony. Your handler delivers the news with the same flat smile the gray suit man wore at your mother's kitchen table 20 years ago. You land at Pyongyang Sunan Airport and everything looks correct. Official car, honor guard in pressed uniforms, the right protocol at every checkpoint. The problem with spending 20 years reading deception for a living is that you eventually stop trusting anything that looks exactly right. You already knew 48 hours before the plane touched down. You recognized the pattern the moment the summons arrived without a specific ceremony date attached. In this organization, vague invitations have only one meaning. The insurance policy had been running for 5 years. Encrypted files on a dead man switch server outside any jurisdiction the regime can reach transaction records, authorization chains, agent identities, the full architecture of every Room 39 network you ever touched. The trigger was simple. Miss the daily reset code, and the files release automatically to 3 international press organizations and 2 Western intelligence services simultaneously. You sent no code the night of your arrival. At the recognition ceremony, 2 state security officers escort you out of the main hall before the speeches begin. Quietly, professionally, the same way you've watched it happen to other people. 72 hours later, the files hit. Sanctions escalation. 2 senior Korean Workers' Party officials named publicly in foreign press. 1 government expelling DPRK diplomatic staff within the week. The apparatus you spent a career building is being dissected in daylight by people who didn't know it existed yesterday. You didn't win, but you made sure losing was expensive. In the boardroom, they call it a poison pill defense. In Pyongyang, they call it treason. The math is identical either way. State security moves you to a facility outside the city. Small room. Fluorescent light that hums at a frequency that never quite lets you sleep. A window that faces a concrete wall close enough to touch if you pressed your palm to the glass. They want the reset codes, which no longer exist. Both sides understand this without saying it. They leave you with nothing to do but sit and think and let the whole thing run backwards in your head. The tribunal convenes in a room with no windows and a party seal on the wall. 3 officials behind a table. A slip of paper already face down in front of the center chair. The charges are read in formal party language. Economic sabotage, ideological impurity, Treason against the state and the people. You listen and recognize the architecture immediately. You've processed paperwork that used these exact phrases for other people. The verdict was written before you walked through the door. You know this because you've signed verdicts the same way. That's when time starts to come apart. The Bangkok hotel ceiling dissolves. The Shenyang office, 40 laptops and no windows, dissolves. The Macau casino floor with its permanent noon light and its free internet and its shelves that were just shelves, dissolves. The gray suit man at your mother's kitchen table dissolves. The academy corridor at 9 p.m., gates locked, floor wax, the letter under the mattress. The passport with the wrong name. The restaurant bathroom, the number, the flush, the confirmation you sent. All of it pulling backward through you like smoke through a closing door. And then you are not in the tribunal room. You are in the hallway of your family's Pyongyang apartment. It is 3 a.m. The fluorescent light in the corridor is flickering the way it always flickered. You can hear boots on the stairwell. Your father is standing in the kitchen doorway in his undershirt, and he says nothing, because there is nothing to say, because the system has already run its calculation, and the calculation doesn't require his input or yours. You stand there in that flickering light and you wonder if his rank had been 2 levels lower, would the state have bothered? If your academy score had been 2 points lower, would the gray suit man have knocked on a different door? You built a machine that generates $1 billion a year for a regime that took your father for free. That's the thing about compound interest. It doesn't care who's paying. That wraps it up for today. The story you just heard is fiction, but the system it describes is real and documented, and somewhere right now it is running exactly as described. If this gave you something to think about, drop a comment and tell me what landed hardest. There's more coming, so hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.